All right, all right, all right. It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood. Is it warm enough for you? Oh, praise God. Thank God for the heat. Thank God for the heat in late May, because the seasons are, you remember the thing in the Bible, it says, it's the last day in time. Well, this ain't the last day. I can assure you that, because it's hot and it's late May. All right, the New Life Recovery Show. And our mantra is, if I think better, I do better. The show is brought to you by New Life Recovery. Mr. Ven McCormick. Ven has a phenomenal story for those who don't know. This show is about mental health, whether it's drug abuse, alcohol abuse, gambling. Maybe you watch too much porn. I don't know. But every rabbit got a habit, says the shrink. And we're here to talk about getting better with ourselves. We're here to talk about, for example, me. If I want to get better with me, then I have to be honest, not just with myself, but at least one other human being who is going to help me to be accountable to myself. But I'm not the expert. I'm just the host. This guy right here, he's the expert. He's the expert. How did I do? How was my opening, man?
Your opening was magnanimous. I appreciate you, brother Donnie. Good to see you. I want to bid our viewing audience and listening audience a great afternoon. I want to welcome our wonderful Senator Cory McCray, who actually took the time out of his busy schedule to come down, and I think you know that, Don, to come down to visit our facility. I want to thank you for that, Senator McCray. That was wonderful of you, man.
Yes, sir.
Well, before I let you speak, Senator, because this is the only time I'm going to, I don't push up on you too hard. you East Side. I got a lot of respect for East Side. I started in East Baltimore, but let me give you the proper introduction. Member, first of all, Senator McCray, one of the things when I first met him, what I love about him, Ben, is he's a man's man.
Absolutely.
And not saying that the other members, the other 187 members of the Maryland General Assembly, that the men are not men, but where we come from, Ben, of course, we've been to the suites, we've been to the institutions of higher learning, Baltimore Polytechnic, college prep, all at 14, 15 years old. But there's another institution, it's called the Streets of Baltimore. And where we come from, Ben, those of us who know about North Avenue, about Green Mound, about Warwick, some of us have had the unfortunate circumstance of going over to Central Book, and I saw that sign once. It said, never again. But there's a certain respect that we have on these streets, especially for people who have walked the same streets as ours. And that's why I love Senator McCray, a man's man. Member of the Senate since January 2019, Deputy Majority Whip since 2020, Senate Chair, Joint Committee on Gaming Oversight. And we're going to get to that gaming thing. Best believe we're going to talk about that since 2023. Member, Budget and Taxation Committee 2019, Pensions Subcommittee 2019, Chair, Public Safety, Transportation, and Environment Subcommittee 2020, Vice Chair, Capital Budget Committee Subcommittee, Member and Chair, Health and Human Services Subcommittee, Joint Audit and Evaluation Committee, Spending Affordability Committee, Executive Nominations Committee, Legislative Policy Committee, Joint Committee on Gaming Oversight, Joint Audit Committee, Special Joint Committee on Pensions, Assistant Deputy Majority Leader 2019, Chair, Baltimore City Senate Delegation 2020 to 2022, Member, Legislative Black Caucus of Maryland since 2019, Maryland Legislative Transit Caucus 2019, almost done, folks. Associate Member, Maryland Legislative Latino Caucus, Que Pasa 2019 to 2020. Member, Steering Committee, Mayor's Transition Team, Baltimore City 2020-21. Member, Juvenile Grant Planning. You know what? I'm a little tired now.
Hey, Donnie, I didn't realize it said that much on the state website, but let me be clear. The only reason why I serve on a number of those different spaces is just to educate myself on my surroundings to better understand how to work for my people. So a lot of those were just sought out to be able to better understand how do we move forward, understanding the legislature and understanding that budget, Donnie. I did 3 years as the chair of public safety, transportation, and environment. And I just felt like my knowledge capture of what the percentage chance of me learning would be stale. So I went somewhere else, which was health and human services, specifically of what we're about to talk about today, to better understand the $60+ billion, a third of it going to Medicaid's budget in our health department from that standpoint. So I've been a chair over there for 2 years, but it's simply a role of education and continuing knowledge seeking.
So, Senator, I got to tell you, about a month ago, I was up in, I apologize for not having my phone on mute. I was up in New York for Victor Pate, and you are familiar with the efforts by Al Sharpton and that entity. But Victor Pate is my guy. I will say that. Victor Pate called me about anything. He called me about returning citizens. He's my guy because when we go to New York City to do the Black Wall Street Awards, something of which you have helped sponsor, you have sponsored many of our events. When we go to New York, if Victor Pate told me stand over there next to Al Sharpton, I'm gonna do what he said because that's how much love him. Ordinarily, I think for myself, I do, I got my own agenda, but if Victor Pate tell me to show up at National Action Network, then I'm gonna show up. And I say that because I don't always agree with other things politically, if I can just clarify that. So, on this one panel was Yusuf Salaam, who is now on the New York City Council. Yusuf Salaam was one of the Central Park Five.
That's right.
And you know where I'm going with this. He was locked up, and people like Trump came after him and his four partners. But now he's on the council, and as you mentioned, one of the subcommittees you work with has to do with people incarcerated. That makes me all the more proud of you because, but for the grace of God, I'm 58. Even this cat right here, Vin, he's got a story. He got a story. I'm not sharing it on his show. We've already talked about some things, but for you to go from there to here, and you understand business, I think that's probably what I love about you the most. Well, that and the fact that you are well-read. Somebody was talking about you the other day, maybe on this show, about how well-read you are, that you always have a book in your hand, you're always reading. I'm just proud of you as another Black man from my city.
Donnie, that's just well received. I want to say, like, I look at you as a mentor and the opportunities to be able to learn, but more importantly, be able to challenge me. There were a number of situations where you either sent me a text or something just challenging me on my educational opportunities from my history. And I deeply appreciate it. What I'll usually do after you send something is I'll pick up a book and try to better understand it from that standpoint. And I said this during the floor debate one time during the General Assembly this past session, Donnie. Every day I pinch myself and say, how did I get here? Everybody that know me, everybody that grew up with me would say I'm the last person that they would say is sitting in the Maryland State Senate is one of 47 members. And I think that it's an awesome responsibility in that, knowing that I stand in a very unique space than the other 188 legislators that I'm serving with. And, I've seen what this juvenile space can do. I've seen what the adult space can do. I've been able to move through the streets of Baltimore in the gritty streets of Baltimore, man, and be able to become an entrepreneur, as you stated, been buying houses up and down Bel Air Road since I was 20 years of age, and just understanding, like, how can I leverage that $60+ billion budget to strategically place my folks at an advantage that has been historically put upon them in a disinvestment way for decades. So like I'm always waking up trying to strategically level the playing field that I know is not equitable, and pushing my colleagues, Democrats and Republicans, because Democrats don't always get it. Sometimes they fall short and trying to figure out like, well, what did I do wrong? And it's right there in front of them to understand what they did wrong, and just kind of pushing on them and being able to articulate the reasons why we need to move in that direction, man. I'm blessed 10 times over to be in that space for my community. I know that this is a short-lived space, so this time that we sit in is very temporary, and I just make sure that every day that I wake up, I'm making it count, man, hitting home runs. And like I say, we getting the successes, but it's like we got so much work to do that we can't always celebrate the successes. We got to get to the next one, the next play, because there's so many people counting on us to win.
Well, I'm going to hit you. This is baseball season. In case you don't know, that's my sport. I got a mean knuckleball, mean fastball. But here's the first fastball coming straight down the line. Your mom's. Tell me about your mom's, what she means to you.
You know, I'm in a very good position to have my mother still here.
Did you see this question coming?
I didn't. This is not a question that I typically get, but I tell folks, and I won't deep dive into it, I was at a very interesting crossroad in my life, probably around 18 to 19 years of age. And it was my mom, Donnie, and we get in this space. I always tell folks this story. It was my mom, where you just have such a disregard for life that you want the people that love you to give up on you, because you know that the hurt that you're putting upon them is so great and you want it to stop. And if they don't love you, or if they just sit you aside or throw you away, you no longer have to deal with those types of feelings every time you're getting in trouble. And there was a point in the conversation where I had with my mom. I said, why don't you just give up on me? And she said, Donnie, Cory, I'm going to keep believing in you until you believe in yourself. It was my mom that found the apprenticeship program that I matriculated through with the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers. It was my mom that kind of helped me study that course and spaces like that. But like I tell folks that it's not one day that I go by that I don't give her the praise that she deserved, because she was the one that dealt with the challenges for them 18 to 20 some years that I was going through, especially from 13 to 18, hell on wheels. Just trying to figure out what was that path forward.
I'm glad she didn't give up, big brother. I'm glad she didn't. I first heard you tell that story when I met her. You were having, I think, an announcement over on Harford Road at Lake Clifton. I remember that day. Your sister was there. She wasn't a council person yet. And it was the look, I think it was the look on your mom's face. And then you'd have to see it. And it was more than that's my child. It was the one who believed in him. If 1 billion people said no, he just needed that one yes.
Donnie, I'm gonna lay the setting so folks can pick it up where I'm trying to lay it down. When she said that to me, I just came home from a 10-month sentence. I was only home for 30 days. I was incarcerated at over L section, and she said that during my visiting day. I was over the Hoppertier, and she said that during my visiting day at that moment. And I just knew I was gone. I knew like I'm not coming home no time soon. And she just stuck with it. She just wrote. So just imagine in that landscape where this is happening, and she's just holding on to her child, trying to navigate him through these systems that's pressed upon him. And I take full responsibility in any trouble, but you got to remember the systems that's put upon us, the poverty, the food insecurity, the challenge of educational K through 12 system, like all of that in one space. How can we're not playing at the same level fit? The folks that are in adjacent counties aren't playing at the same level playing field that our young scholars are playing at. And that's another reason why I get up every day and try my best to hit these home runs, Donnie, because I know what's at stake. And I know that there's another Cory McCray. We just got to figure out how to get them through that situation, get them through that fire, because if we do, it's unimaginable what they would be able to accomplish. And I always say, like, imagine if I was given the same type of tools at 13, 14, 15 as some of my peers in the body that I'm in, where I would be at. I think that the Maryland State Senate probably would have been the floor, knowing what I know at this moment if I was given the same type of resources and tools.
Now, I'm going to let Vin jump in here, but I got to say to you, did you know that in 2006, I started a Love for L prison ministry for L section for 14 to 17-year-olds charged with adult crimes.
Yep.
Bernard Jack Young and Ken Harris would go with me over there, and Miss Gwen Oliver was the assistant warden, and I would love to resurrect that program. But I visited L section. I don't even, because of Miss Gwen, and she retired since. But I've been to your section and where you were, and this is mind blowing. And I gotta say this: 3 times those young men would come up to me on the streets, Cory, Senator, and they said, "You don't remember me, do you?" I'm like, "No." Well, he said, and they said, "Well, you came to visit us," and they said, but I'm doing better now. I'm working now. Oh my God, Cory, those were the 3 greatest times ever for me at Be More News, ever.
I always say, because we got some of the most skilled mindsets in our penal system. Imagine if you can run a business at whatever age is there and be able to duck police, people trying to kill you, people trying to rob you. Imagine what you can do in a setting where it's legal and navigate those waters if given the opportunity.
Come on, Vin. Are you crying, Vin?
No, not yet, brother. But if I stay on this podcast, given what little I know about Senator McCory's past.
Oh, well, let me tell you this. When he first came up to me, look, he think I forgot. I ain't forget, but I'm from North Avenue. He was like, "Hey, I'm Cory McCray." And I'm like, "Oh." He's like, "No." He's like, "I know who you are." And you know, he's had me hooked ever since, because he came like a man. Look you straight in the eye, shake your hand. I'm like, who the hell is this guy?
No, I appreciate you, man.
So let me tell you what I love and respect about this brother who's on our podcast. So, and then you and I have talked, Donnie. I reached out to, I won't say their names, several politicians, Senator Cory, at the city council level and in the Senate as well. And I can tell you, folks who are listening, Senator McCray returns phone calls. So because I'm in business, and one of the things about me in business is when you see that in a person, it tells you a lot about them without you having to ask a lot of questions, right? So that's that
part. Session too, wasn't it?
I think it was. He would better answer that than I. I just know he answered the call. We set something up, and he came down. So we made a schedule. Listen to me, right? Business. I don't know him like you know him. We had a conversation. We made an appointment, and he made his appointment. To me, in business, you can't get a better person on the other end than that, right? Doesn't matter what their label is, where they are, what station they're at. If they have that mindset, because that really comes, if I'm not mistaken, Senator, I don't know how you feel about that, comes before you get a position anywhere. You have to have that kind of, I'm going to do what I say.
Conservative mindset. Yep.
You know what I mean? So that's what I see in you, Senator. Man, and I don't want to belabor the point. I'm appreciative, Brian, that you came and took the time to tour our New Life facility at the hotel, because, and I try really hard to say this, Senator, unpretentiously and non-boastful. We have something special down here at St. Paul, man. And I don't know how much, if you've done any research, there isn't another program quite like this in Baltimore City. Now, there are a lot of programs in Baltimore, right? and I won't name them, but you familiar, you know your city. There's no one other than Save the Turk House that has something like us, but that they took over the old Provident, so they're operating out of a hospital space, and I've conferred with them. We've had some conversations, and they want to start sending people to us because they don't do quite what we do in terms of trying to make people's lives better after they get clean. So we have workforce development. We have the opportunity to attach people to employment so that once they get the drugs and alcohol out of their system, they get some sort of reasoning in terms of what mental health is. They start taking some medications that they either hadn't taken in a long time or never took to put their mental health in a stabilization mode. Then what? Now what? So we put them in a position, okay, now you need to get some education, right? Whether it's they getting their GED, because a lot of them, man, they've been on the street for decades. They stopped going to whatever they were school they were going to in the 9th, 10th, 11th grade, didn't graduate for whatever reason, they never went and got their GED. So you know better than I do, you can't do much without even a GED here in Baltimore City, right? Not so much the college education, but we at least want to get you a GED so you can get something. So we take the, I don't want to call it the extra effort because it's not. We take the effort to do that and attach you to something that can further your life because you need to be self-sustaining, right? Because a lot of people who are suffering from mental health, let me use the broader term, they've been living with somebody for a long time, or they've been living in the street. It's one or the other. They hadn't had their own apartment, man, or their own house, or their own townhouse, and they was living with somebody, or they weren't living at all. So we want to put them in a state that they weren't used to. We want to get them some financial literacy. So anyway, that's what we do here at New Life. So when I say we do something different than the other folks, I know the other agencies very, very well, and I won't vilify them at all. We just do something a little different. So we've got the 13 houses, Senator, and we have this new hotel, this 100-room monstrosity down here at St. Paul. And I think I shared with you when you were here, we're operating in the 100-room space. We're getting ready to get the 50 rooms right next to us. The 1st of November is what the owner and I have agreed on. It may be a little bit after, but they're hurrying up to finish that property so they can give it to New Life. And so we're very excited about that. So I'm like you. Because I share a little bit on this show about where I've come from, but I'm 24 years on the other side of my own self-imposed involuntary hell. So I'm trying to heal where I once raised hell. And God has been very, very good to me. I have in fact lived 2 lives in one lifetime. I was institutionalized for several periods of time in different parts of the state, and God was showing me if those are the decisions that you'll make, then these are the places that you will live, right? And I've had the good fortune. I shared this with Donnie a few times. The last time I was incarcerated, I had the good fortune to be housed with some lifers, and I hope not to cry, Donnie. I met a man, Senator, who had 37 years in on life when I met him. This was in 99. He's already done 37 years. His name was Mr. Will. Mr. Will had a peace in his countenance that I could not understand because I was trying to figure out, do you know you ain't never going home? How can you be so peaceful and so steady in your countenance and your disposition? That's what I was thinking. I never said it to him. And so I play a little bit of chess, Senator. And there's some things I got that on the wall and some little statue that say I played pretty well. So so in jail.
I don't know whether that was a challenge, Donnie, but I don't want to interrupt the.
No. We get that. I heard you play a little chess too, bro. So I had the opportunity to play Mr. Will. Long story short, so some of us on here that are listening know that prison has its own set of rules inside, and some of the rules inside are more important than the ones that are written. So it took me a long time to play Mr. Will because he was the chess king. up in Hagerstown at that time. So it took me a little while to play him, and I played him a few times, and he beat me. But we would have moments where we would have very short conversations in our chess play. And some of those things that he said to me, I hold on to today. One of the things that he told me, Senator, was, he said, young brother, let me tell you something. He said, when you get out, he said, never argue with another man. I didn't understand that. I said, why you say that? He said, because don't nothing never good come from arguing with another man. He said, look around. I looked around. He said, most of these dudes are in here right now from arguing with another man. So I took that, right? And because I know situations, you probably do too, where two men argued and something happened, attempted murder or something, right? So I took that. Another thing, a smart man and a wise man. And I think I gave him something philosophical. He said, no. He said, a smart man learns from his own mistakes, but a wise man learns from the mistakes of others. And I keep that. So today, with 24 years clean, some semblance of reasoning, I try and act on my own wisdom, and I try and listen and watch other folks so I won't make those same mistakes in my business and my personal life. So we're very proud of what we're doing here at New Life. And you said something to me when you left. You said, if you need me, McCormick, and you can't get some answers to some things, we said, look, don't call me first, call me last. I got that. So and I'm going to take advantage of it. And I haven't talked to you since because I never want you to believe or think I'm going to take advantage of what you offer me, what you extended me. But I can tell you in the space that we're moving, and Donnie's been very crucial in what we're doing now in terms of the podcast, which is only in its third week, Donnie. It's the third week?
Fourth.
This is the fourth week. So we just started this since I met you. So we're trying to shine a light on what we're doing down here. This is one of the vehicles that we are using in order to do that. So we're trying to do some different things. We're having a New Life Mental Health Summit. We'll talk to you about that because I don't know how we missed that discussion with the senator, Diane, but we need to talk to him, see if we can get him to come down and put that on the schedule. But we're doing some things down here, Senator. We think that the Baltimoreans who are experiencing mental health are in need of it and can take advantage of. So that's what we're doing down here.
So, Senator, let me put this to you and let you share your platform and what you do, particularly in the first 90 days, mid-January to mid-April. Back in 1973, and I imagine you were not born. 1973, I was 8 years old, and they took the illegal street numbers from Willie Adams, and they started doing the Maryland State Lottery. And they promised money for education. And just for the record, I have kind of sort of called out the governor and whoever else want to be governor, that if you want to be my governor and you're not talking about Baltimore City and Prince George's County schools being 23 and 24 at the bottom of the heap, if there's not a task force looking at why that keeps happening, and obviously it's racism, but there's some other things, then maybe they just shouldn't be where they are. But they promised money for education. This year, I saw that they got renovations for the football stadium and the baseball stadium, but we have Baltimore City schools, including schools like City and Poly that don't have air and don't have heat. And then on top of that, Martin O'Malley came in with the table gambling. But the thing that really ticked me off over the past year was seeing Kevin Hart on what looked like a trampoline, but it was a bed. And he's coming talking about sports betting and pushing my people to vote. And I've seen what happened in them lounges. They got them one-armed bandits, people gambling away the rent money, the BG&E money, the daycare money. And by the way, Venn does offer treatment for gambling.
Donnie, you want me to chime in here?
Yes, sir.
So I'm gonna go in the road that I heard it in. So I'm gonna go with Vin, then I'm slide your way and speak to the education component. So Vin, and I just want the listener audience to kind of move with us. I want them to move with us. And I feel as though communication is very important. So I'm gonna hit on some of these points that you talked about. The one that you talked about was service in reference to the phone call. That's so important to me because I think that we're all servants. Like, I believe that my blessings come because I serve others, and then it comes back tenfold. So when we talk about service, and any entrepreneur knows this, if you get good service, the customer always come back. So what happens is folks are apathetic about government. They don't even believe that government works for them. But I feel as though I have the ability to remove that apathy if I give people good service. And when they get good service, they'll say, well, maybe everybody in government ain't bad. Maybe there are some, but maybe this is why I should be participating in that process. So I say to the listener audience, Ben's experience is everybody's experience that I run into. I call everybody back within a 24-hour period. When I get text messages, I try my best to give everything my undivided attention. So I may not respond until I can give it my undivided attention at that moment, but it's happening within a 24-hour period. When you look at the emails, it's not somebody else on my emails. It's myself. You have the senator, nobody else going through it, because I'm trying to get the granular level opportunity to be able to see what are the challenges, what are some of the things, what's the volume that's coming in to my email, and what are those issues. So I appreciate you mentioning it, but I just want to let folks understand why do I do such. You then went over to challenge me in chess, man. While I do not have any recognition or awards on my board, I'll tell you this. I got an 8-year-old son and a 10-year-old son that have been in multiple chess tournaments that got a whole bunch of different trophies hanging up. So while Cory McCray Sr. ain't on there, it does say Cory McCray Jr. name on that piece of it. So next time we got to bring that board out is what I'll say.
Sir. Yes, sir.
I love the analogy that you gave, and I'll start with the one that I appreciated the most because I learned this a little bit later than I wanted to. But you talked about learning from others, man. Like, that's so important. I do, and I tell folks, like, we can't make the same mistake. That's how you get to move at a fast pace. But the fastest pace, and that's why I read so much, is because I'm trying my best to understand what it is that I don't know. You don't know what you don't know. So I'm seeking that knowledge, that input of what it is, and being able to learn from others. I always tell folks I love to read about leadership. I love to read about history, and I love to read about Black wealth, but specifically probably the late 1800s, early 1900s, because that's when it was hard to make $1 million versus what we have here at this time with the obstacles that they were dealing. But every time I'm reading, I'm trying to capture information that I do not know, because I know that that's how I become wise. So I appreciate the analogy that you put forward. And I'm the same way. I agree. I don't argue with folks, man. It's just that you're losing the war if you find yourself going back and forth, right? That you've already lost. While it's good to debate, it's good to have discussion, it's good to challenge each other, but arguing from that standpoint, you've already lost the war if you find yourself in that situation, and you'll find me moving in a different direction. So I deeply appreciate that, because I wish that I would have knew that in my teens versus learning that in my late 20s, early 30s, because it becomes like folks will say, like, Cory, like, my blood pressure's good. I don't stress because I move in a certain way, and I know how to navigate these waters better at the age of 41 versus me as a teenager or in my early 20s. And then you started to talk about just the first to last. So I know you know what I meant, but I wanted to make sure that they knew what I meant when we talk about first. So, like, I think that there are processes, and sometimes I'm dealing with folks that are seniors that don't want to navigate the processes. And you know what I'm going to do? I ain't even going to make them navigate the process. You're going to find me stepping in from that standpoint. But there are processes when we do have issues. So you want to try to work your way through, but government is tough. I deal with government all the time. And what I find is my job is to keep the train on the track. So if folks have reached out to 311, they reached out to the respective person, give me a call, shoot me an email, because I'm going to reach out to the agency head. I'm not dealing with the second, the third, the fourth tier down. I'm going to reach out to that respective secretary, reach out to that respective director. And because I've been in office for 10 years, most folks know how I move and what my level of expectation is out of all of us, not just some of us, not just myself, but all of us when we're public servants from that standpoint. So I just wanted to give them context from a first to last piece of it. And sometimes when I'm interacting with folks for the first time, I don't always make them follow those channels because they're apathetic. They walk in, they're reaching out to me for a reason that they upset for a reason. So if the second time I'm saying, hey, we got this addressed, but here's how it usually get addressed, hoping that I can remove that apathy from that standpoint. Y'all, I'm gonna move over to the education component. And as I move over to the education component, I'm blessed with 4 young scholars. So this is important to me. This K through 12 system is important to me because I'm dealing with it on a firsthand basis. Donnie, I got the letter for my last one, and I'll give you the ages. I got a 15-year-old, I got a 15-year-old, I got a 16-year-old, both over at Poly in their ingenuity program, and very successful. And I got an 8 and a 10-year-old. That 8-year-old just got a letter. He just got the letter about a week and a half ago that said that he was in the gifted and talented program as he matriculates to the 4th grade. Wow. And like that's now 4th. So that means that we done this right 4 times from that standpoint. And my thing is like, I know what the blueprint is. How do I scale that and make sure that each and every young scholar in our city and our state are given those same opportunities? They get the tutoring, they play sports, they have the extracurriculum, they're engaged at their schools and things of that nature. But how do we wrap that around and make sure that every young scholar do that? And that's why I stay in one of our schools at least once a week. Today I was in Dr. Bernard Harris the day for their field day, just to make sure that I'm encouraging the students that just matriculated going to the next grade as the school year ends, but also thanking those teachers, paraprofessionals, and the parents that were also there to let them know that they have that full support from that standpoint. What's some of the examples that we bless our young scholars with and our schools with? And I'm gonna move over to Poly and City from that standpoint. One of the things that I was super excited about this year, I just wrote an op-ed about it, was driver's ed. I was over at Achievement Academy over at the old Northern Building High School right there. I'm speaking to that class for career day. I'm talking to them about how I'm a state senator, how I'm an electrician, how I'm an entrepreneur. And, you know, the question that I asked him, then I said, if you all were the senator for one day, what would you bring about to your school? And one of the things they talked about was driver's education. And I walked out of that building and I said, why isn't driver's education in high schools? I said, that's the pathway when you're about to enter the workforce as you're a junior, rising senior, going to college, things of that nature. I knew that in order to go to the apprenticeship that I needed a license was one of the qualifiers for me to even be accepted. So why aren't we making sure that we're equipping them with the tools before they get out of high school and recognizing that it's unaffordable? So I just had an 11th grader who just went to driving school over the spring break, and I looked at how my pockets got lighter. But imagine the adults that don't have the ability to make sure that they can set them up in a thriving situation. Inside of our budget, inside of our state budget this year, is a appropriation for every future budget where it's a $2 million appropriation in perpetuity. So this isn't just happening 1 year. This is happening ongoing unless a governor removes it through the BRFA process, where any school that has a concentration of poverty at least 40%. So it's not going to all high schools. It's only going to schools with a concentration of poverty of 40%, which is all Baltimore City schools from that standpoint. They can apply to partner with a nonprofit because the schools can't add this curriculum, but be able to partner with the nonprofit to then bring that about through their school. This is the type of stuff that I'm talking about, leverages us, puts us at a strategic advantage, because the folks that don't have the license, the folks that are graduating without the license, come from our community. And this is one where when they went before EEE, the committee before the Senate, we took Miss Riddle, who was the counselor, the guidance counselor for the school. We had 4 of the students to testify for the bill and to show them that they were the ones that first gained Senate Bill 1081 to fruition, but also made sure that it got to passage from that standpoint. Now I'm gonna move over to these buildings because Donnie lifted that piece of it up. So one of the things that we did this back in, I want to say 2021, when we passed the Build to Learn Act. So when we were in session for the Build to Learn Act, it actually has 5 high schools that funding is already allocated, appropriated to be built. Those schools are City, those schools are Poly, those schools are Douglas, those schools are Emerson, and I'm leaving off one that I can't think of what the 5th one. It ain't Dunbar. It ain't Dunbar. Dunbar in my district, I would have known. So those 5. We also have several that was piled on to. So I was able to get these tacked on because they only wanted to do high schools with the 500 million that they're able to leverage for these pieces. But Furley has already broke ground. Furley Elementary. Northeast is going to break ground sometime this year. And Armstead Gardens is another one that's actually breaking. So those were all in a package and passed into 2021, where not just Baltimore City benefited, because we're at a disadvantage with how many legislators we have. We're shrinking in population, which means that we have less power within the General Assembly. So Baltimore County got 500 million. Prince George's also had 500 million, and then the smaller jurisdictions got less. But the big 3, Montgomery County, I'm not sure that they got 500 million, but they got up there. So the big 3 were able to make sure that these aging buildings. I know that they're talking about right now the transition and how that happens for our schools. So like where these young scholars going to be at for the 2-3 years that their school is going to be newly done. But the money has already been appropriated at this point. Right now, we need to navigate transition and planning because the dollars was appropriated back in the 2021 budget.
Any thoughts on Kevin Hart, Kevin Garnett, Jamie Foxx doing these commercials in our state, using their celebrity status, pushing sports betting on Black people?
So what I would say is that I don't gamble. So I'm in the stock market, but I don't consider the stock market gambling. So you don't find me at Horseshoe or Live unless I'm attending some type of event. So I've never really played the casinos, at least in the last decade, as they moved through the state. Got legalized in the state of Maryland. From that standpoint, I do know that we set up safeguards with different types of funds to make sure that those folks that are impacted by gambling, that those dollars went up. I do know that we made sure that when we talk about ownership, that folks that look like us participate within this process of the sports betting, whether it's the they call them like Class A and Class B license, whether it's the brick and mortar is what I'm trying to say, or if it's like an online piece of it. How folks, and I also know that there's certain ways that you can and can't advertise from gambling standpoint, but also from a marijuana standpoint. I know that there are different regs and things of that nature of how you navigate those 2 processes. Do I advocate for people to participate in this process? No, because I don't even I don't gamble, let alone sports bet from that standpoint. And I would say, like, if you're going to do it, I hope that you have the resources to be able to do it, not be navigating these waters and don't even have the resources to be able to do it. And I always say, if you wanted to do it, Donnie, I participate in the stock market because I know that over a period of time, it's consistently went up more than anything from a real estate or from other different metrics from that standpoint. And I look at that as more of a financial literacy versus a gambling type of thing.
Ven, what's been your experience? You offer gambling treatment?
So we do offer gambling treatment at New Life Recovery. And what I've seen experientially, this is not what I heard or what I read, is that poor people gamble.
Mm-hmm.
Poor people gamble, and we have the least to lose, you know. And it's and I've shared this before in this show, Senator. I have people in our classes right now who lost more than they could afford at the Horseshoe, more than they could afford at Live, and more than they could afford on their app, on the sports betting apps while they're at work. And when I say more than afford, they've lost the house, they've lost the car, and they're about to lose their marriage, right? So, you know, I don't believe, so gambling is gambling. That's that part. And then there's the person who has the addictive personality, but they don't know they have the addictive personality while they're in it.
Including grandma.
Yeah. So and that thing has no age limit. It's not race specific. It's anybody, you know, because addiction is addiction. So it's unfortunate. It's just like one of those, anything. If you do it with moderation, it's okay. But the minute that you do it and you losing your life and your resources and finances, then it's a problem. And you know, you need to get help for. So we're fortunate to be able to get our gambling license, not license. I'm sorry, our gambling addiction license. So the folks who realize, and that's the thing, it's hard for people to realize they are addicted while they are addicted. And I say that for myself. I was told for many years, boy, you got a problem. But it wasn't until I lost everything, Senator, that I realized, you know what, I might have a problem. So, we're here for the folks who realize that they need help before they lose their wives or husbands or their cars or their houses. We hope that they come in and just seek us out and get some help.
And we want to make sure that we get a fair return on that gambling money because, Senator, we gamble at a higher rate than do other Marylanders, the black community. We're 30% black state. And that's what bothers me when Kevin Hart, Kevin Garnett, Jamie Foxx, all on TV joking, kiki kaka, talking about, did you bet? Yeah, I bet. Hold up, time out. We can't afford that. We can't. And I'm glad to hear what you said about the schools, because me and Senator Hayes, and I'm just putting some dirty laundry out there, he said that they keep closing schools in Sandtown because of population, and there's no law that says you got to have a certain amount of people to get a new school. We want new schools in Sandtown. Like they gave us a new school, or they did some stuff over at Gilmore back when Freddie Gray happened, but that's been 9 years ago, and they closed Gilmore. So I don't understand why neighborhoods with the most murders aren't getting the most resources. Yesterday, Councilman Torrance did say that they're going to rebuild Lillian Jones, but when I go to DC, when I go to PG and I see recreation centers with football fields and lights,
man,
jealous.
Don't get me started. Hey, Donnie, I just want to say in East Baltimore, we are rocking and rolling. I just served in my 10th legislative session, and I look at this as an entrepreneurial spirit. I got short-term goals and I got long-term goals. Some of the things that I'm excited about is that Morgan has now acquired the Lake Clifton campus to be able to do their alumni housing, to be able to do the auditorium that Dr. Wilson wants to do right there across the street. Some folks call it Lake Clifton Middle. I graduated from there. We called it Fairmont Harford, but the Fairmont Harford where Reach Partnership is in, they're going to get the first football stadium, public high school football stadium right there off of Harford Road. Super excited about that, man.
Wow.
Yep. Hey, Don, you know what? I just thought about, you would appreciate this. So the city come to me last year and they said, hey, we need $2.5 million from the gap for building a public football stadium. And I said, hey, I don't mind helping you all navigate the budget and being able to get the dollars appropriated, but I got one caveat. And I said, the one condition to help us get the money is that I need it named after Senator Robert L. Dalton. So the stadium not only got the money last legislative session, but the stadium will be the Senator Robert L. Dalton football stadium. For those that do not know, he was the first black state senator in East Baltimore, and he actually just passed away about 18 months ago, and he lived right there on Cecil Avenue, which was in close proximity. He was actually the first community association president for the Chum community, which is where Fairmont Harford's footprint is also in. So like that was a very, very cool, great opportunity, and just glad to be a part of that and keeping that legacy going so that when folks do walk in the stadium, they can ask the question, who's Robert L. Dalton? And we can have the opportunity to keep telling this story.
Well, since you like sharing history, how is your friendship with the senator you replaced? Because he was warm at first. And he looked at me like, I'm like, go ahead now. Go ahead now.
That's my guy, man. We talk probably about every 2 weeks. He texts me just right at the election day, was telling me congratulations on election day. So the last time I talked to him was that Wednesday or Thursday. He sent me a text. But I'm proud of the work we're doing for him too. Right down there in Central Orleans, we're bringing our first grocery store. Lidl's is coming right there across from Dunbar. Super excited about that. But adjacent to that supermarket is going to be a $6 million park, which the state has 1.75 into it, and it's going to be called the Senator Nathaniel J. McFadden Learn and Play Park.
Hold up, this ain't got no Johns Hopkins name on it?
This ain't got no Johns Hopkins.
Thank God we can have something. Jesus Christ.
Daddy and Dana Henson is doing the Somerset Old Town part of the PSO project. And that was one of the caveats. That was one of the things. And we did that about 3 years. I'm super excited. I talk to Dana consistently about when do we break ground. But like, I just want to make sure that he gets his flowers while he's here. So many folks will say that he was their teacher, their principal. Like, he's impacted folks' lives for the last 30 or 40 years. And like, and that's going to be. Yeah, and he's a historian, but like, that's one of the things, and that's what I mean by like, I love being on the budget committee. I'm gonna get off here in a second, Donnie, but I love being on the budget committee, a $60 billion budget. Imagine the opportunity. It's not just about money. I want keep telling our story, and how we tell our story is so important. So they know Cory's thinking about, I'm always looking, hey, what's my needs? What's our needs of the community? What's the needs of the community? So when they come to me, I have the leverage and power to be able to say, these were the needs and what my community told me that they need. And here's how we keep that story going. And I'm having fun, man. I'm having a ball right now.
Saturday morning, I'm minding my business, breaking out of West Baltimore to get over to 33rd Street to get some laps in. Why do I see you there with the kids in the pool?
Everybody know, man, I shut down and I start family first, man. So every day, I think that it's important that our young scholars, even if you're not good at sports, to still play at least one sport. My oldest, Donnie Kennedy, I was like, man, she got 2 left feet. She can't, like, it was just tough to figure out what she was good at. You know, she finished twice, 2 years in a row, tennis for Polly's team, first in girls doubles. So like, in the entire city, being able to go to the regionals and being able to do that. And what happens is, especially for our young ladies, it raises their confidence. It shows them what teamwork looks like. It shows them how to deal with hard situations and great situations, how to be a humble winner. Reagan plays basketball and ran track. Polly's JV and varsity girls came in first this year. So Coach Peace is doing a phenomenal job over there. But Reagan started and ran. They just ran through every other school. Some of them they beat by 50 points. And the boys, the 8 and 10, we don't have that level of engagement in the elementary schools, but they play every sport. So I want them to have the basic life skill of learning how to swim, is what you saw. Because I knew I didn't know how to swim when I was their age. That wasn't one of the things that I was blessed with. They play basketball, they box over there. They play flag football. So that I get them in everything, so that when you get to that middle school, that high school age, you can figure out what it is that you like, because you explored and saw what everything would look like. But that's very important from an academia standpoint for our young scholars, but also from a confidence building and a teamwork standpoint from the sports. It just layers in so many different life skills.
I have one final statement. Solution. You asked, how do we scale fatherhood? That's what you said. How do we replicate a Vin, a Donnie, a Senator McCray? And here's the backdrop. 70% single mother household. America is 5% of the world population, but we got 25% of the world's incarcerated persons. And 35% of them look like the 3 of us. We are starring in that movie. How do we get the fathers back into these children's lives?
You know, Donnie, I say that I'm very open. I'm very public about this journey that I'm traveling at this moment. I've tried my best. The thing that I think that we all can do is we lead. So first is to lead by example and take ownership and start from there, from that standpoint. And sometimes, Donnie, I see this with legislators. They may be great people, but they don't know how to do what to do or how to do different things, which is important for us to be very open and transparent as you do, Donnie, as you do then, to make sure that folks understand that journey. What is it that they try to reach to? What is some of the skills or some of the assets that we've been able to garner along the way, and how can we duplicate from that standpoint? So I have conversations with fathers all the time about different things that I may be doing, different things that I'm experiencing. And let me be clear, I got 4 of them. So the things that I had with my first, I now know how to do better with my third and fourth, because I just didn't know when the first and the second one. A lot of the sporting opportunities or the things that I talked to you about, the tutoring opportunities, I had to learn that at 7th and 8th grade with my first, and then I knew how to implement that in the 1st and 2nd grade with my 4th, 3rd, and 4th from that standpoint. So I'm gonna go back to what Vin talked about. The smart man learns from his mistakes. The wise man learns from others' mistakes. I've been gathering that knowledge capture to be able to implement those things that I didn't know, but making sure that I learn from others. And that's what we can all contribute all on this call.
You want to be governor?
No.
You knew that was coming. Come on, man.
I didn't know that was coming. Here's what I would say, man. I think the best job that I have as you close is with fatherhood. So like folks will know, in Annapolis, my first 4 years, I did the drinks or get to know people. My last several years, Donnie, I go back home, man. And you'll see that 6, 7 o'clock, you'll see Cory sitting there on a bench watching his kids practice or making sure that they get to practice and still being able to do my legislative duties. So as you talk about that, when you have these different positions, there's a great responsibility. I'm able to navigate both my family and my legislative duties at this moment, and not sure if I can do that in a higher position. If they get older, the question is to be asked, but at the moment, I got to focus on my children because that's the greatest thing I got going.
You better put a plug in for your best teammate. I don't want you getting no trouble. I want you to say Donnie was that's my man to them.
well, I'm leaning a little bit so I know that I'm know what I'm supposed to be talking about.
Your partner, your wife.
Oh, my wife, Demetria, man, Donnie. With Demetria, I've known Demetria since I was 17 years of age, man. She grew up right there on the 1500 block of Oliver Street. And she has navigated Baltimore in such an eloquent way. I was at her school. I told her this morning, I said, I'm going to Nifty 250 this morning. But she also is a Coppin alum. She was a McNair scholar, so she got a full ride to Coppin. She graduated from Poly.
I'm a McNair scholar, right?
I didn't know you was a McNair scholar, man. But like that's she's an alum of McNair. And she just does it so well. And she also humbles me because there's so much that I learn from her, especially as I grow older, man. I'm blessed. I tell folks I'm blessed 10 times over, have a beautiful wife, 4 kids, be able to have investments, but be able to serve my city. I don't know whatever position there is to be in at the moment.
There you have it, Vin McCormick, the one and only Senator Cory McCray, straight out of East Baltimore.
Yes,
Bel
sir.
Air Road, you
Yes, sir. Pleasure to have you.
And, I'm blessed to be here, man.
And I want to get a hold of you post conversation to invite you to our June the 6th event, Senator. And I apologize for not getting back to you sooner. It's a new thing for me. It's an emerging design, and we're putting together for the benefit of those who want to put folks in our program. So it's really for the administrators and other agencies. So we'll talk about that later. So thank you for coming on.
I was gonna say June 6th getting full. I think they got me at Hampstead Hill in the morning. Like it's getting. I don't know why I know that date right there, but it looked like they grabbing me and pulling me different directions. Shoot me an email with the info.
Absolutely.
I appreciate both of y'all. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you for taking the time. I know you're busy.
Yes, sir. Have a blessed day.
Oh, one last thing before you go. I need a book. I need you to recommend a book for us.
Man, Donnie, I'm going to text you this book that my brother Mansour had recommended to me. It was like Survival Strategies for Africans in America, man. And I tell you, I was in awe when I read that book. And when people saw me, they knew the author. I can't remember the author, but I remembered the title. And that probably was one of the better books because it talked about health. It talked about food we eat. It talked about the laws. It talked about so much, man. But I think you would have a deep appreciation for it. I'm trying to think, what am I reading right now? This one, the verdict is still out. I'm only on chapter 4, but the book that I'm reading now is Why Smart Executives Fail and What You Can Learn from Their Mistakes. So like that's what I'm reading right now, but I'm only on chapter 4, so the verdict's still out. But if I was to give you one book, if you gave me one choice of what I've read in the last 12 months, that would be at the top of it.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you, Senator.
Y'all have a
great
blessed
day,
day.
Senator.
Yes, sir. Appreciate you.
Ben McCormick, great job. Any final thoughts, Ben?
Well, you know what? I'm just very excited about what we're doing here and what we're building, because this is an emerging design. I use that phrase a lot because it fits. We're still putting the pieces together. We don't have a mass of viewership. That's not important to me. I enjoy every show. I appreciate the senator for coming on, and I just believe in the saying, this Latin saying that I learned so long ago, and I try and take advantage of it, which is carpe diem.
Seize the day.
Seize the day. So we're just seizing this day and this opportunity to do what it is that we believe that God has put in us to do. So I appreciate you, good brother, and look forward to seeing you on Friday.
Absolutely. Have a great day. Good afternoon, world.
Yes, sir.